Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone here. So you might remember that last year I started a series called #Life, and I would do a topic each time, and for each topic I would do 3 different videos, the first being books, the second being TV shows, and the third being movies based on that topic, my favourites of. And so I did books about love, which was #The Love Life. And then I did fantasy, and that was #The Fantasy Life, and that was books about books, TV shows and movies about fantasy. And I haven't done them in a while, and I decided I was going to bring back their little section. And this time I'm doing #Classics Life, and that is going to be my top 5 books about classic books, top 5 classic TV shows, and top 5 classic movies. And so today's video is going to be my top 5 books, classic books, and I'm going to talk about my favourites. Now I'm just going to really quickly mention that I love Jane Eyre. It's like my favourite classic ever. I'm not going to talk about it in this video because I've talked about it so many times. I'm also not going to talk about Pride and Prejudice or Emma by Jane Austen, both of which I love because, again, I've read it and talked about it multiple times. So I'm going to talk about some other ones. Some I have talked about before, but not as much as those ones. Also, I feel like they're just really obvious ones, so I want to talk about something a little bit different. So let's get started. So the first one I'm going to talk about today is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and I loved this book when I read it. This follows 2 children named Jem and Scout, and their father, Atticus Finch, is a lawyer, and he is defending a black man accused of murdering 2 white men who raped his daughter. And this is about the kind of cultural and societal thoughts about race at the time. I think this was set in like 1950, was it something like that? And it's very much, there is a heavy bias on race at that time in history, and so obviously it's in this book. And what I loved about this was it really talked about the fact that Atticus Finch was happy to defend this man because he thought that this man was, you know, had been wronged, and that was the reason why he'd done what he did. And but a lot of people said that he didn't deserve a defence because he was a black man, and I just felt like this book was really important in terms of race and in terms of supporting each other, irrelevant of kind of external features, and I just really loved this. I will say one thing though, do not read the second book in the series. What is it called? Go Set a Watchman. I hated that book. I gave it a 1 star, so I'm just going to say now, don't read it, don't bother. But I did love the first one. I think it's a really important book. It really touches on important topics, and it makes me feel like we have come a long way, even though we still have a long way to go. I feel like we have come on a long way since then. So yeah, I did really like this, like I said, and I think that this is my favourite, well, this is the first one of my classics today. Next up I have a book that took me a long time to read because it's like 1,300 pages long, and this is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. A lot of people probably will know what this is because you've seen the movie or the TV adaptation, but I also implore you to read the book because it also feels like a massive accomplishment when you've read it. Look how big it is, it's massive. And there is some difficult language in this, and a lot of the time Victor Hugo does go off on a bit of a tangent about sewers and like random things, but the storyline in this is amazing. It really does follow the musical really well. I feel like because I'd seen the musical I understood the story a little bit more, so maybe do it that way around, because I do think sometimes classics are quite difficult to kind of get the nuances of. It follows an ex-convict named Jean Valjean who was imprisoned for stealing a loaf of bread because he was hungry and he was trying to feed his family, I believe. He's been in prison for 19 years and he is let out one day, or he escapes. So he's saved from the prison one day, and then the policeman who imprisoned him, named Javert, is still after him because he doesn't want him to be able to escape his past. And in the meantime he meets a woman named Fantine who wants him to look after her young daughter Cosette, who she's had to give away because she doesn't have any money to feed her. And the whole thing is amazing. The romances in this are beautiful. The storyline is amazing. It really talks about poverty. It also talks a lot about the French Revolution, and I just found this whole thing fascinating. It's not a book I would necessarily have read previously, but because I did, I'm so glad I did. I thought it was absolutely amazing and I recommend it to everyone. Next up I have The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, and everybody knows of this. It's the first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I imagine most people have seen the films again. I had watched all the films before I read this, and I love The Hobbit as well, which is the sort of prequel type thing. But I love this book. I think it is a difficult read. There's a lot of kind of complicated language in this, but I definitely think it's worth picking your way through because it is such a wonderful story. There's lots in the book that's not in the film. Obviously they can't put everything in the film, but the books themselves are just really comprehensive. I find the characters to be really interesting, and I love this. Like I said, there was lots of adventure in this. Obviously this is only the first of 3. I haven't obviously read the second 2, or the second one or the third one yet, but I will do that eventually. But I did love this, and I would 100% say if you like the films you should check the books out. Next up I'm going to talk about The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton, which I really did enjoy. I think it was one of those books that I really just picked up out of curiosity. I didn't know anything about it before I started, and Edith Wharton has a really good way of writing. This follows a girl who it almost feels like a very feminist book to me. This follows a young girl who wants to have the benefits of being married without actually getting married to a man. She doesn't want to be with anyone. She just wants to have the kind of excitement and the privileges that you get from being married at the time that this was written, in the late 1800s I believe. When this was published at that time, it shocked a lot of the people in society back then because they were just shocked that someone would write such a thing. It really does remind me of Emma by Jane Austen. As I said before, I wasn't going to mention, but I will just mention it in terms of comparing it to this, because there is a lot of feminist kind of leanings with Emma, and also with the, I can't remember her name, I feel like it's Lucy or something, I can't remember, in The House of Mirth. She's very much on her own. She's quite happy to stay where she is. She doesn't really want anyone. She just wants to be given the kind of privileges and the lifestyle of being a married woman without actually having to be married, because if she's unmarried it's kind of frowned upon at that time. But like I said, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really well written. Edith Wharton is a new kind of author that I hadn't read before, but I did really love this, and I do hope to read more of her work soon. And then, just because I can't do a video without talking about these books, I am going to talk about them. And I know this isn't technically a classic in terms of a older book that's kind of everyone reads. This to me is a modern classic, and 100% this will be read and read and read for years and years to come, and that is the Harry Potter series. I know you're probably thinking, that's not a classic, what are you talking about? This will be a classic, 100%. This is a story, if you don't know, I'm sure you do. It's about Harry, who finds out that he is a wizard and he's off to wizarding school, and it's about his experiences there and kind of the things that he goes through. I love this series. It's probably the only books I actually reread regularly. I read this I kind of try to read it at least once a year. I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, so I'm always kind of have one on the go in some way, and I love them. I think they're 100% classics. Don't tell me that they're not in the comments below, because I don't want to hear it. I'm joking, of course. I think these will be classics, and I feel like they kind of are already. Like, these are, what is this book? How old is this? Let me find out. I feel like it's like 20 years old. First published in 1997. So, what is that? It is 21 years old. Like, that is a classic to me, so I'm sticking with it. So yeah, 100% this is the last of my classics for this video. And that is my #ClassicsLife top 5 classic books that I've read, and let me know in the comments below what your favourite classics are, and if you've read any of the ones I think. Also let me know what you think about Harry Potter being a classic, because I'm all for it. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and definitely tweet me your classics if you want, and use the hashtag and I will see them. I'll leave my social media down below, my Facebook, Goodreads, Twitter, Instagram, I think that's it. And yeah, go ahead and follow me on there, because I'd love to see you in another place too. And give this video a thumbs up, like I said, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!